I think around the fourth time, the conversation started to get complicated. I guess I don't really know how many times your house can catch fire until the complicated conversations start. People watch a lot of TV in small towns. There's not really anything else to do. And my mum was obsessed. CSI, SVU, Law and Order. One night we stayed up really late and watched an episode of Criminal Minds where there was an arsonist with OCD and she had to do everything in freeze. So I guess by the fourth fire, it was fair to say I had exceeded everyone's expectations. The first fire took us all by surprise. House fires, they appear with no warning. I'd never even considered what the things were that I might grab in a mad panic. Photos, memorabilia, bits of me and bits of you. Some of it was quite nice to watch burn. I was standing out my front door with the smoke bellowing behind me, and I stood there with my pajamas on, just sobbing. My house, man, that was my house. My house was on fire. Nothing can prepare you for what that feels like. What it feels like to watch the thing that you lived inside collapse, completely give way. See, the first time the sympathy swelled and ebbed through the corridors of my small town. My house was on fire. The local papers ran a story on it. I saw the charred remains of my house on the front of the paper for weeks. Local girl in tragic house fire. Survived in the small print. The community really came together to support me, to let me know that a house fire is an anomaly. Probably dodgy electrical or, something that wasn't my fault, not your fault. Potentially avoidable, but not your fault. This is in fact a blame-free incident. I was put up in a local hotel while my house was rebuilt by the caring neighbours. Everybody learnt my name, everybody wished me well. I had a secure spot in everyone's prayers. People left bags of clothes by my front door. Food arrived for me, hot, still from other people's dinner tables. That's what happens when a tragedy occurs, and a tragedy had occurred. An accident had taken place. But a neighbourhood pulls together. When the second fire occurred, my keys were carefully placed by the door, alongside some photographs, a ribbon from my hair, a book left to me by my mother. All had been left by the front door. A wise combination of fear and preparation. During the second fire, the neighbours came slower, but they came armed, and this time they were ready. They came with jugs of water, with hoses plugged into garden taps, with blankets and comforts and cups of tea. I can't believe it, they said, as the local news station rolled up to my front garden. The girl with 2 house fires. Tragic, really. Phenomenal, to say the least. The neighbours had their answers prepared. Yes, we will be doing a fundraiser. Of course we will. Anything to help her get back on her feet. The local school will let her sleep in the library. There's a few bean bags, some creature comforts left by the toddlers and teachers' lunch. Breakfast will be supplied at the local cafe, but unfortunately we just can't put someone up in a hotel again. Your house will be restored, but it looks like that window at the back, it can't really be replaced. So I think for now we're just going to board it up, which doesn't sound great, but it's better than nothing. By the time the third house fire happened, any surprise had gone out the window. I laid in the scalded grass and I just wept. I had no photos in my hand. I had no ribbon clutched to my chest. My blankets were still charred from the previous blaze. This time the neighbours watched from the windows. This time the conversation had shifted from the tragic, the phenomenal, to the doubtful. Someone would have to be incredibly unlucky to experience 3 house fires. Someone would have to be very, very, very lucky to survive 3 house fires. Luck. Interesting concept. I didn't feel very lucky. The third time, I mean. The third fire. I didn't feel lucky. This time there was no tea. Nobody bought any blankets. The fire raged and I couldn't even summon enough saliva to spit. I just sat, defeated. My eyes refused to cry and my skin refused to sweat. The ash settled over me. The ash formed a hard, sticky layer on my skin, and soon the neighbours had become unaware that underneath there was still a person. The tragedy was a normality, and I had become nothing now but a piece of garden furniture. 2 whole days passed before I could re-enter the hollow husk of the building. With nowhere else to go, I passed through the concave of my front door and pulled myself to the top of the hollowed-out staircase. Boarded-up windows, burnt-out carpets, an empty shell where once was life. My life had been here. I had lived here. I rested my head where once a bed had been and slept. By the time the 4th fire had come, I had grown accustomed to the smell, to the sounds, the taste. I had slept through the unfortunate collapsing of the staircase. Not one curtain twitched. There were no sirens. Through the blistering heat, I pulled myself towards the window and I stuck my head out in a desperate attempt to breathe, and I was shocked to find my neighbours. Each one of them just sitting on their front doorsteps, just staring up at the inferno, shielding their eyes from the bright light, but enraptured, the way you would sneak a glance at an eclipse. Too painful to see. Too good to miss. The fire grew ever stronger and I began to scream, "Please, please, someone help me. My house is on fire. Someone help." But they knew. They could see me. A decision had been made.